Hi, my name is George Dagnino. I'm the editor of the Peter Dack portfolio. What I'd like to talk to you today is about the business cycle indicators that we have developed from market data. So, market data, we use market data to establish what's happening in the economy. What is amazing about these indicators is that they have a cyclicality that is really impressive, very regular. The problem from a strategist viewpoint is the turning point. The turning points are important because they take time, and sometimes one is impatient and would just move ahead and try to say, well, this is what they are going to do. No, this is, I found out through experience, that would be the wrong approach. The interesting thing is that they tell you where you're at and what you have to be ready for. So the purpose of this presentation is to show the cyclicality, where we stand, and what you have to be ready for, and what kind of investment strategy you should get ready. Of course, nothing is set in stone, but this is what the indicators are saying now. In the future, they change message and will change the strategy. But right now, this is what they are saying. The peaks and valleys of the indicators we're going to discuss match exactly the business cycle. And this is what the business cycle that I always show you. But it's important to know, why do we have these turning points? This turning point here is the transition from rising inflation, rising interest rates, to a consumers that retrenches, it slows down purchasing goods and services, to a business that is cutting employment and inventories because to keep margins at satisfactory level. This is instead is the opposite. This is where all the causes of the consumers' pain, so to speak, they're going to be brought under control. So the consumer here, the problem was inflation and interest rates, high rising home prices. Everything is out of, getting very expensive. Okay, in this phase 4, everything will come down because the consumer will demand an increase in purchasing power to keep on purchasing again what they want to purchase. So they will wait and wait until all the inflation, interest rates, commodities, home prices, everything comes down. And once this is happening, then you have the new growth in the economy. Why do we care? Because in this phase, the strategy is defensive sectors. In phase 1 and 2, instead, is cyclical sectors like industrials, financials, technology, discretionary, this kind of sectors. Here, instead, is in this period 3 and 4, you would invest in utilities, staples, real estate, possibly bonds. So let's see now what the indicators are saying and what is the likely path for the next 2 years. These are our business cycle indicators that, as I said, they are not computed from economic data, strictly market data. So this is the message of the market. Now you will see two lines, one orange and one green, and the reason is we have two, because when one doesn't work, the other one seems to be working. So we use them together to give us a better idea of what's going on. Now you have seen these graphs before because we publish them regularly in our publication, the Peter Dack portfolio. Now when the indicators are rising, it means the economy is strengthening, and investment in cyclical stocks, in growth stocks, is advantageous. When, on the other hand, the indicators are declining from like here, or like here, or like here, or like here, defensive sectors outperform most of the times. But they have a very interesting property. To me, this is amazing. The peaks from peak to peak, from here to here, from here to here, is close to 3.5 years. Is enough to give you an idea of what's going to happen. Now, by the way, these charts are not calendar days. It's based on trading days. So 3.5 years, when on this chart they show 3.5 years, there are no Saturday and Sundays. So it's 3.5 years becomes 4 years, calendar years. But anyway, what I've done is, okay, if this is from peak to peak, from peak to peak, from peak to peak, from peak to peak, from peak to peak again, then I can project what the next peak is going to be, because it's going to be so steady, 3.5 years. I know roughly if this is a bottom, of course, this is a big if, but it's now at levels that you found at bottoms. But more on this later. So if this is a bottom, the next peak is going to be somewhere in this area, and it's going to be in 27. So whenever the market is going to rebound and go up, and the cyclical business cycle indicators start rising, the next peak in the indicators would be roughly around 2027. What does it mean? It means that the strategy until, let's say, the indicators start rising now, the best strategy is growth stocks, growth sectors, not defensive sectors. Because what they are saying, if they rise from here to here, starting now, this is a big if. I'll get to that. This means that the strategy should be growth oriented. Okay, I know that all this flies in the face of people that are saying we are in a bubble, the world is going to collapse, the dollar is sinking, interest rates, inflation is going to be like Zimbabwe. I don't know. I look at the data, and the data is saying if this is a bottom, the next peak in the business cycle indicator is going to be in 2027. So we have roughly 2 years of rising strong market. Now, the same thing happens, the same periodicity, cyclicality happens at bottoms. It's roughly 3.5 years, 3.5. So the next bottom is 25, should be in 28, 29. So once the bottom is in 27, then the decline will be until 2029. Now, this is the framework. The trick now is, as I said, is this the bottom? And the answer, probably, but we need more evidence. That's why in the publication, the Peter Dark Portfolio, I show timing indicators that are more, the next month, the next 2 months, and see if there is a buy or not. But we showed you some indicators that if they give a buy signal, we probably are very close to a very important bottom. Now, there is another consideration to be made. It's not necessarily that the business cycle indicators go from here all the way to here. It could be very well, like in this case, that they just go halfway point. So instead of lasting, they still will last 3 years, but instead of going from here to here, they may go from here to here. So we don't know that until we let things happen. But there is the point. The point, we are at a crucial point. We are at a crucial point in the market that there is a great buy opportunity. And if we have other indicators that I showed you long term that are turning up, so we are very close to a great buy opportunity. That's, I think, is what the message is. What is the message? The message is our business cycle indicators are superb in giving our members what is the strategy that they should follow. Okay? When they rise, aggressive. When they decline, defensive sectors. But these indicators have an amazing cyclicality. The tops and the bottoms happen every 3.5 years. Trading days, by the way, all this. So you have to add the Saturday and Sundays in 3.5 years. It's going to come up roughly 4 years. So they have 3.5 years cyclicality, both the top and bottoms. If what we're experiencing now, we are close to a bottom in the business cycle indicators, the next peak in the business cycle indicators is going to be in 2027. So we have 2 years of rising stock market where an investment strategy is going to be cyclical stocks. I know that this flies in the face of all the people that say that the world is going to collapse, it is a corrupt systems, bubbles and so on. But this is what the data are saying. I miss great opportunities sometimes because I was listening what people were saying instead of following my indicators. Like in 2022, they were at the bottom and they were saying the market was going up and we should be in cyclical. When instead in 2022, as you recall, everybody was talking depression and the end of the world. Exactly the same as they are doing now. So it's important to have an idea and listen to what other people are saying, but at some point we got to focus on what the data are saying. And I think the data are saying we are close to an opportunity. As you know, and as you read in our Peter Dark portfolio, we started buying a few stocks just to test the waters, and I think we are going to plan in doing that as we go, very slowly, because again, we don't know if this is a real bottom, what kind of an opportunity is going to offer. However, we are beginning to test the waters, as you have seen. That's why we started buying a few stocks that they have been outperforming the market. Well, thank you very much for following this video. I hope you found it useful, but this for us is a major cornerstone, the basic foundation of our work is the behavior of those business cycle indicators. Of course, there is much more information in www.patreon.com/Peter Dag. Again, thank you very much for being here. I hope you found this very useful. Again, so long and see you really, really soon.